The world's highest grossing law firm generated $8.8 billion in revenue last year, and that's from just 3,828 lawyers. Do the maths, and that's over $2.3 million per lawyer each and every year. So how exactly do these legal giants make so much money? And how do equity partners at these firms take home seven-figure compensation packages, reaching as high as $5 million, $10 million, or even more? Hi, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, I'm Liam Porritt, and for the last 5 years, I've been in the trenches working as a corporate lawyer at a top global law firm. So I have first-hand experience of the big law business model, and in the next 15 minutes or so, I'm going to break down exactly what big law firms do to earn money, why that generates such significant revenues, and the secret sauce that makes profits for partners so tasty. So if you've ever wondered why legal fees are so high, or why some law firms can afford those gleaming glass towers in the financial district in the city where you live, you're about to find out. Let's dive in. So the first reason big law firms make so much money has to do with the type of work they're doing, what they actually do to generate revenues for their clients. So the core function of what every corporate law firm does is to help clients achieve specific outcomes in generally at the high end where I work in complex situations. So these outcomes might be stuff like winning or settling a piece of litigation. So for example, Getty Images recently sued Stability AI for using the stock images on Getty's platform without its consent to train AI models being developed by Stability. There will have been corporate law firms on both sides of that trying to achieve the best outcome for their clients. Similarly, in what I do, I try to complete transactions for my clients. So for example, DoorDash has been talking about possibly trying to acquire Deliveroo. There will be law firms that act on that transaction. Or let's say you are a bank and you are looking to lend loads of money to a company looking to build a major infrastructure project in Chile. You will need corporate lawyers to help you achieve that outcome. And it's acting for our clients on these really important matters that are fundamental to their businesses, worth millions or billions of dollars, that we can provide massive value and therefore generate significant revenues for our law firms. So what exactly does the value that we're providing to our clients look like? So first of all, they are looking for clear, actionable advice on what the law says and what their options are in any scenario they find themselves in. And that relies on lawyers with expertise, spending the time to really think about what their options are and present those in a way that can be digested by the business. Second, we are then, as lawyers, for example, as a corporate lawyer like I am, involved in very important negotiations where there are points being discussed that could cost clients millions or more if we get them wrong. So knowing the points where your client really cares and making sure you are trying to win those points for your client is another place we add value. And then there's what the contract that you're going to sign actually says. So we as lawyers obviously are the ones responsible for drafting legal agreements, and drafting is difficult. I, at a 3-year qualified stage of having done this for 5 years, am only just getting to the stage where I'm starting to draft the most important documents on a deal. Legal drafting is a skill that takes years to develop, and legal drafting is really important. What the contract says is ultimately, as a matter of law, what the parties agreed. And if later down the line the parties fall out or something goes wrong, it's the contract that will be brought before the court and scrutinized word by a very intelligent judge. Clear, high quality drafting where there is ultimately a dispute worth millions or billions of dollars is worth a huge amount to our clients. And then finally, there's just being available. Obviously, as lawyers, we are there to serve our clients. And at the high end, if a client wants to sign a deal at 2 a.m. on a Sunday night so they can announce the deal the next morning before Monday, open of business in London, then that's what we need to help them do. It doesn't happen all the time, but the level of expectation is there that if clients are paying premium rates, they expect a premium level of service, and that means being available when they need us. So that is, in a nutshell, what as corporate lawyers we do to provide our clients with value that means that they're willing to pay us. But there is for me one thing that means clients are willing to pay very vast amounts of money to their lawyers, and that is scarcity. It is very difficult to find lots of people who know how to draft legal documents on very complicated deals, who understand the law in huge amounts of detail, who have 20 years plus experience of doing that and are able to provide you with the advice you're really looking for. And because it is so difficult to find these people, because they have to have had a high quality education, 5 years of study, £50,000 of student debt, years of practical experience versus a trainee, then 10 years as an associate, then a number of years as a partner before before they're then qualified to be a real go-to partner in their field. That means that there is a barrier to entry to trying to compete with these people and undercut them. That means that these real experts who I get to work with at my law firm, who really are immensely intelligent people and real experts in their field, they can charge a premium because there just aren't that many of them. I think it's kind of interesting to compare this to other fields. If you think about, for example, like The Social Network, loved that film, and I can so imagine developers who are involved in the founding of Facebook or who more recently have worked at Meta, and then they pivot, they've gained some experience, but a couple of years of experience, and they're then able to try their own thing, and that does have a decent chance of success if they've got a good idea and they execute it well. But with a law firm, it would be impossible for me to go out and start my own law firm at this point because I just do not have the expertise and would not be able to deliver the level of service that clients would expect from me at this stage. The thing with the legal industry, and particularly if you're working on a multi-billion-dollar deal, is that it's okay to make mistakes internally, but you need someone within your law firm to catch that mistake before you then send the wrong advice to the client. Whereas if you look at the tech entrepreneur who leaves Facebook and goes and starts their own startup, they can try stuff, they can iterate, they can break things, they can produce a product that is an MVP that maybe works quite well, but not 100%, and they can then iterate over time. Law is just a fundamentally different business that demands a level of precision and excellence from the get-go. All that generates scarcity in the market for exceptional corporate law advice, and that means that law firms can charge more money. Now, although I don't make what equity partners at big law firms make, my salary is still very good. And the first thing I do with that salary when it lands in my account every month is invest it using InvestEngine. And InvestEngine are today's sponsor, but I can honestly say that I've used a bunch of different investing platforms. But the thing that really sets InvestEngine apart for me is how easy it makes to automate your investments every month. So previously I was transferring money into my investment account. I sometimes forgot, but InvestEngine does all of it for me. So it takes money out of my account, it automatically transfers it into my InvestEngine account, and then automatically distributes my money into different funds based on the allocations I've set within the app. Now, one of the most important things to look at when you're considering any investing platform is the fee structure. And InvestEngine is free to sign up to use. You can then open an ISA in the UK, again, completely free, and you can also build your own portfolio, completely commission free. Overall, it's a really easy sign up process. So actually connecting your bank account and setting up your automatic deposits is all straightforward and intuitive. Plus, once you're set up, they have fractional investing, meaning you can put as little as £1 into an ETF. The dashboard analytics and insights you get from the app are all really easy to follow and use. So yeah, overall, I'm a big InvestEngine fan, and I use it for my own ISA as well as my own business investments. So yeah, start regularly investing your salary using an InvestEngine ISA or SIP. Plus, if you get InvestEngine today, you'll get a variable welcome bonus of up to £100 when you sign up through the link in the description. All right, so far we've looked at what lawyers deliver to their clients and why that is scarce and why they are therefore able to charge lots. But now I want to look at it from the law firm's perspective and look at precisely how they charge their clients. So if you know anything about lawyers, you'll know that they charge by the hour. This still is the predominant billing method, although there are other methods of billing clients that are becoming increasingly common, including fixed fees, where you charge a fixed fee for the entirety of a deal or a matter, capped fees, where you say it will charge you but only up to a certain amount, and there's also contingent fees, stuff like success fees, where you say, okay, if this deal goes through and you sign, then you will pay us X, but we'll reduce our fees if that doesn't happen. To give you a sense of the kind of hourly rates that are currently being charged, Legal Cheek has reported that partners at top law firms are charging as much as £2,000 an hour in 2025, with senior associates being charged out for as high as £1,500 an hour. At a fundamental level, that's why corporate law firms make so much money. If you have a senior associate being charged out £1,000 an hour, and they do 1,600 billable hours in a year, and all of that is charged out at their standard rate, no discounts, then that makes the firm £1.6 million. The difference between that and what they pay the senior associate, including their bonus, is all profit for equity partners in the law firm. But I think the real question here is, why are clients willing to pay these crazily high rates? And we've already talked about the scarcity of legal services. I think the other point of context that's really important to remember here is that legal fees on a massive deal might go up as high as £25 million. They could go higher than that, but let's just use that as an example. That would be a very big matter for a law firm. Now let's imagine that matter that's accrued that level of fees is worth £10 billion. That means that legal fees as a total of the cost of the deal are 0.25% of the overall deal value. When you put it in that context and you think about the potential cost of a claim, for example, if something goes wrong on a £10 billion joint venture where the parties have put in loads of money and then ultimately fall out and the whole thing collapses, you're talking about amounts of money that are so much higher than the legal fees. That doesn't mean that legal fees aren't significant and aren't an important cost, but in the scheme of the deals or disputes that corporate lawyers are often working on, generally our fees are actually a relatively small proportion of the overall deal value or the value of the dispute. And this is where everything I've spoken about so far comes together. So you've got the high level of service that clients are expecting, and then the significant hourly rate that's being charged. And where those two meet is, are the clients actually willing to pay what you try to bill them for a matter? And in law firms, this is called recovery. So I can record my time as a lawyer. The partner can then see that time and can choose whether or not to bill it to the client. That will be a function of whether they think I've done things efficiently. And then ultimately when the client looks at the bill and says, whoa, how come you spent this many hours on this thing? I'm not happy with the job you've done. I think the level of service I received wasn't good enough. And the partner ends up having to write off time, as we call it. So basically say to the client, yeah, okay, you can pay a bit less than we were supposed to charge you. That write-off is painful and means the law firm makes less money and is generally something partners obviously try to avoid if at all possible. So if you want the most profitable law firm possible, you try to charge out at your standard rates without a discount, and you try to not write off any time. So do the work efficiently, make the client really happy and make them want to pay all of your fees in full because of the quality service you've delivered. All right, now on to the final piece of the puzzle. And this is the piece of the puzzle that makes it all work together, that actually makes law firms drive huge amounts of revenue and very, very profitable. And it is the very same tool that private equity and real estate uses to make their deals crazily profitable, and it is leverage. In the world of real estate or private equity, leverage is simply the use of debt, i.e. borrowing money from a bank, to amplify the gains you make from your own money. So if I invest in a piece of real estate here in the UK, I'm going to buy a house to rent out. That is a real estate investment. I generally would be required to put in 25% of my own money, and the other 75% can be money I borrow from the bank. So that could be, keeping the numbers really simple, a £25,000 deposit that I put down on a £100,000 property. If over 20 years that property increases from 100,000 to 200,000, I've made £100,000 profit. And the power here of this entire deal is that I've made £100,000 of profit, not on a £100,000 investment, because most of the money that was put in up front wasn't mine. It's £100,000 profit on £25,000 of my own money. So my return on investment here is 400%. Not 100%. Now, law firms use the same technology, but in a slightly different way. They deploy their money to pay people for their time, so me, and then they leverage the time of partners using the time of the employees. So their associates and trainees that they pay, they use their time and they leverage partner time with employee time. So if we consider the two scenarios, the no leverage scenario first, the equivalent of me paying £100,000 of my own money for the property is a partner spending only their own time on a project. So they charge their own time and get paid for just the time that they spend working, no one else's time. They can charge huge amounts of money, yes, so they can charge, let's say, £1,000 or £2,000 an hour even for 1,500 hours of work a year, and they would make £1.5 to £3 million a year. That is a lot, but the problem here is that partners can't just spend all their time billing. The partners are the ones who actually have to pitch for work, win work from clients, maintain client relationships. They just can't in general spend all of their time billing. Plus, for most tasks that need to be done, clients aren't going to be willing to pay $1 or $2 grand an hour. All right, let's flip over then to the leverage scenario. So if instead of spending 1,500 hours just on billable work, just their own time, the partner instead can spend 1,000 hours doing billable work, making £1 to £2 million over the course of the year, but then the rest of their time is spent winning work for the firm. Clearly, they're making less money so far. But if they then can actually only do the most important work on every matter they work on themselves, so let's say the most important 20% of work work on a matter the partner does, then the rest of the 80% of the work that doesn't require that huge level of expertise, just requires very significant expertise of a senior associate, slightly less expertise of an associate or a trainee, then actually across that 80% of the work, they're going to be charging out 4,000 hours of other people's time. And even at, let's say, £750 an hour as an average rate across all the different types of associates and trainees, then as a conservative estimate, that makes them £4 to £5 million in total. And so in this leverage scenario, the partner is making 2 to 3 times more revenue than they were before. And obviously, alongside making money for the law firm, leverage makes sense. It expands the capacity of an individual partner way beyond what they could achieve alone. It allows specialized allocation of tasks based on complexity and required expertise. It creates a pipeline for the future so that trainees and associates at a junior level get the right level of experience so they can develop and grow over time. And it also establishes institutional knowledge, so you learn from people who are more senior with you on a deal, working within this hierarchical structure. So yeah, those are, in my opinion, the reasons why law firms generate significant revenues and really significant profits. Number one, there is scarcity of specialized expertise and therefore law firms can charge more. Number two, these are hugely high value matters that our clients are dealing with, and so therefore fees are proportionally in the scheme of those deals actually not as high as they seem on face value. And third, partners are able to leverage junior lawyers' time to make more money. And all of that leads to law firms being pretty flipping profitable. And if all this makes being a partner at a big law firm sound really very attractive, I just want to caveat all of this and say that it's worth considering that becoming an equity partner takes 3 to 5 years of studying. It then takes 2 years here in the UK as a trainee, 10 in general-ish years as an associate. It's also highly competitive, so there's no guarantee that law firms will actually want you to become a partner as you progress through your career. It also requires significant sacrifice in pretty much every other area of your life, but make it, and law firms are highly profitable businesses. So yeah, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please do give it a like. Please do drop a comment down below. Let me know if you've got any other questions around being a corporate lawyer, any other questions around the legal field, and I really look forward to speaking again very, very soon.